I thought it would be fun to change things up on the YouTube channel for a little bit and run a weekly series where I essentially answer rapid fire questions on the spot in our YouTube comments about breakups. And these questions can be anything from normal breakup questions to observations to getting my thoughts about observations. So what I've done is I've picked out random questions from the comments below in our YouTube comments section, and I am just going to read them for you and answer them or give you my thoughts on them. All right, first up we have a comment from Golden Girl 85. She says that the no contact rule is just healing and moving on, slowly forgetting about it, him or her. For the most part, I agree with this comment. I do think that the no contact rule, at least one of the things that a lot of my peers don't talk about with regards to it, is the healing aspect of it or the moving on aspect of it. We have found that really one of the keys to the no contact rule is outgrowing your ex. And what is outgrowing your ex if not moving on? So Golden Girl has it right. Our next question comes from Ranar, who says, my ex said he doesn't want to break up, but he knows I won't change, anxious and such. Been on no contact day 7 now. We'll see, I guess. Feeling a bit better though watching your vids. I'll be fine without him. So there's a lot to unpack there. Number one is I think you have the correct mentality to succeed at this. If you have this thought that you will be okay without them, you're doing more than 99% of people out there who are searching the internet to get their exes back. Because those type of people exhibit extremely anxious behaviors. And there's nothing wrong with exhibiting extremely anxious behaviors. I exhibit extremely anxious behaviors, but being able to recognize that you have anxious behaviors and shifting them towards more secure behaviors almost always improves your odds of success. So for you to say that you'll be okay without them is key. Now, you also saying that your ex needed a break because of your anxious behaviors is in line with what we have found across the board from a lot of our clients. One of the reasons that their exes often break up with them is because they're no longer the person that they thought they were at the beginning of the relationship. One of the reasons is because we always kind of try to look secure at the beginning of a relationship, but when things like your ex flirting with other people comes into play, or you getting nervous or insecure about not spending enough time together, when those things come to the surface, which are impossible to hide when you're in a long-term relationship with someone, your ex begins to get this thought in their head that you're a different person than they were originally dating, which isn't really true. It's just you are putting your best foot forward. So that is in line with them saying, well, you're not really the person I loved at the beginning. You're more anxious now. The good news is you have the right mentality going forward. All right, our next question comes from Nika, who says, how long do guys realize they lost the girl? I think what you're saying here is how long does it take for men to realize that they've lost the girl? And as cliche as this is going to sound, it depends. It depends on each specific individual. But I will say one thing. When I say it depends, I'm actually not talking about your ex. I'm talking about you. It depends on how long it will take you to get the right mentality to project subconsciously. These are kind of the vibes that are going on now. So what is kind of your end goal there? Well, to kind of stay on theme here, the more you can exhibit secure behaviors and believe in your secure behaviors, not just sort of fake it until you make it, the more likely your ex is going to at least think, wow, I may have lost her forever. All right, who's next? It looks like our next person is Zeppelin the Observer. Cool name. Good topic, Chris. Opinion. Should I re-add my ex on Facebook after no contact or wait for him to come to me? Well, Zeppelin the Observer, I actually think one of the things that you should do is probably not re-add your ex on Facebook, especially if you've already taken that step after, during the no contact rule or before the no contact rule, whenever the breakup occurred and you took the step. After the no contact is complete, that is when you start kind of that texting phase and rapport building phase. I would almost make it a joke during that rapport building phase, so it seems like this natural, seamless thing where you re-add your ex, but only do it when things are going really, really well, during the rapport building phase. There's nothing worse than having it go really, really poorly and then reach out to your ex through Facebook and say like, hey, be my friend again. Not so good. All right, next up we have Chen, who says, how can I be in no contact with my ex-husband if we have kids together? We have to communicate. Well, Chen, this is actually a very common type of issue people run into with the no contact rule. This is why we actually don't subscribe fully to a full-out no contact rule all the time. We do recognize that there are circumstances like if you live together with your ex, or if you share children with your ex, or if you work with your ex, where you're going to be forced to communicate. This is why we have come up with basically the limited no contact rule. Now, the way the limited no contact rule works is it's essentially the exact same thing as the no contact rule, except in circumstances where you're forced to communicate with your ex. So, for example, in your case, you said you have or share children together. Well, since you share children together, the only thing that you theoretically are allowed to break no contact for are emergencies regarding the children. Other than that, you basically keep it strictly business and go right back into no contact if you do end up having to break it. But other than that, it's just a normal no contact rule. All right, we have a long one here from Dominique. I'm in the worst situation possible. My ex said she doesn't love me anymore and she doesn't feel anything for me. And she said, we are never getting back together. And she removed me off her social media and said she doesn't want me in her life. It's been 5 months since our breakup. We broke up on December 11th. And she texted my friend and said, I need to move on. She added me back last month. And I tried asking her out again, and that's when she said all of that stuff. Okay, to recap here, basically your ex says that she doesn't love you, she doesn't care for you anymore, blah, 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 blah. And then you sort of, I guess, do a no contact. It doesn't seem like you did a no contact rule, so I guess that would be a good place to start, though I'm going to look again to make sure I didn't really... Yeah, you make no mention of a no contact rule, so I think that's probably the ideal place to start for you. And I hate to be on theme again, but a lot of the reason that an ex-girlfriend may particularly say that she doesn't love you anymore, she doesn't feel like you guys can be together, a lot of times you'll sit there and think, does she mean it? And I would say, yes, she means it in the moment. You are no longer the person that she thought you were. And in fact, a lot of the times your anxious behaviors and the fact that you are almost reaching out to her and asking her out again is a type of anxious behavior. You need to be secure with yourself before you contact her. And you really shouldn't be trying to jump that value ladder. You know, we come up with these very specific rules for communicating with exes. One of the worst mistakes you can make is jumping the value ladder so high that where you don't even do a no contact rule and you just immediately ask for her back. That is a recipe for disaster, as you learn. So I don't really think you need to do anything abnormal. Just stick to the normal game plan that we come up with, which is sort of do a no contact rule. After the no contact rule is complete, begin your ascent up the value ladder. While you're ascending that value ladder, make sure you hit those value chain type of conversations that we talk about on the YouTube channel, and that should give you the best odds. But I will tell you one thing, the more you come at your ex-girlfriend with kind of insecure behavior where you are literally almost seeking her validation or attention, the more it's going to cause her to push you away. So keep that in mind. Okay, next up we have Adeline, or Adeline. Don't know how to pronounce it. That's not my fault. What if he broke up with me so he could work on himself and just wanted to be friends and then later would get back with me? I pleaded and begged him to just choose whether we are together or not. I didn't want him to lead me on, but I still want him, and he picked to not get back together, but before that, he hoped we would get back together after he was feeling better. Now he says it's too late since I forced him to choose. So it's the good old ultimatum thing, but also it goes directly into what I'm saying with that insecure type of behavior where you are forcing him to choose. So imagine it like this. Your ex basically says to you like, hey, I want to take a break, and if I feel good about taking this break, then I'll come back to you. That's essentially what your ex is saying. But he doesn't say it in direct terms. He says it in indirect terms to you. this is what causes your insecure behavior, because there's a lack of communication on his part on what is really going on. And so because you are kind of needling him constantly about this decision, it further pushes him away, and he just decides, hey, we're not getting back together. I'm just done with this. Instead of just approaching it the way you approached it, it would have probably been an awesome mic drop moment for you to say, okay, cool, and then walk out the other way. Because his assumption is that you are constantly obsessed with him. And if you do or take an action that proves the opposite, all of a sudden, you've piqued his interest again. But here's the thing. We can't go back in time and change that circumstance. So what do we do going forward? Well, the number one thing I would say is really take a page out of Frank Sinatra's book. So Frank Sinatra famously was quoted once saying, "The best revenge in life is massive success." And this is how I want you to live your life from this point on. Make every action not about your ex, but about proving your ex wrong. Almost like bulletin board material. You know, like oftentimes athletes will figure out what other athletes are saying about them or what other sports pundits are saying about them, and they'll put the newspaper clipping up against a bulletin board so they can look at it and be motivated. Well, I want you to focus your life on making that decision by your ex the worst decision he ever made, because then nostalgia and regret will eventually kick in once he sees how well you're doing without him. All right, and now we have Ashley Jean. What's up, Ashley Jean? My husband and I broke up like a year and a half ago for 3 months, and although I got him back and we're married now and have a daughter on the way, I still watch these videos. I don't know why. Well, okay, here's what I'm gonna say. Number one, thanks for watching. Number two, I think you're worried maybe that things could fall apart in the future and you want to get kind of a head start if that does happen. And I really hope it doesn't, because it sounds like things have been going awesome for you. And our final one, which is from Adriana Carlick. Again, sorry if I mispronounced your last name. We always have a great time together, but when we're not together, we end up arguing. And after no contact for half a month, he blocked me. Why? Well, if you watched my video on sort of the stages exes go through during a no contact rule, you would realize there's this anger stage, right? So first they're usually really calm and happy with their decision to break up with you. Then they realize, hey, why isn't she or he contacting me? Then they get angry about the fact that they're contacting you. And then they kind of was like, hey, I'm gonna prove you wrong. And then after that, they're like, oh my gosh, I may have lost them forever. And then they actually start hoping that you'll contact them. I'm guessing your ex is just in the anger stage, because the fact that you do a no contact rule for like literally half a month, so like 2 weeks, and all of a sudden he blocks you, that to me is a very, very impulsive decision, an impulse decision based on not getting his way. It's sort of an ex-boyfriend's way of throwing a tantrum in a digital sense. Now, what's also interesting is a lot of people think like, or they freak out when their ex blocks them, and it's like, oh my gosh, they don't love me. Well, we found that the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. So I'd be a lot more worried of the fact that he didn't even care. He didn't even notice you were ignoring him. The fact that your ex does clearly notice that you're ignoring him is a good sign. It means he still cares, and he's upset about the fact that you're not talking to him. The other thing I would say is there might be a temptation on your part to break no contact and talk to your ex. I would say it's not a good idea, because all you're essentially doing is rewarding him for this bad behavior of blocking you on Facebook or wherever he blocked you. So there's that. So what was that, like 9 questions? That's pretty good for a first attempt at doing this. Hey, if you guys really enjoyed this type of content and you're like, hey, do more of these rapid fire breakup questions, just leave a comment in this comments below and let me know how much you guys enjoyed it, or if you absolutely hated it and say, Chris, stick to your traditional content. I'm sick of rapid fire questions. Also, if you haven't already, make sure you take our Ex Recovery Chances quiz on our website, www.exboyfriendrecovery.com. Taking the quiz is pretty simple. It's just a matter of looking in the description link below this YouTube video and clicking the link you see there. It will take you directly to the quiz where we can get you taken care of. Also, if you haven't liked, commented, or subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do so. Every little bit helps. I'll see you next time.